Okay, so this really doesn't have to do with this project, but a Facebook friend who got a hold of a Challenger chassis, pretty damn cheap. It's just a roller, and he wanted to do some experimenting. The idea of taking the shell of the Challenger and building a 69 Charger using the greenhouse of the Challenger and seeing if he couldn't chop the top and drop it and so forth so that it was proportionally correct, because the doors are about 4.5 inches taller. So he's thinking about taking and basically cutting off the bottoms of the doors and then sinking the whole thing down. But what he needed to know and offered to show him was the relationship of the greenhouse and so forth, and how that would lay out with the hood, and if you chop it down, what kind of clearances issues you'd have, and so forth. One of the ways that hanging bodies on race cars in the old days, the way we used to establish the location of the body, is we would have a number that was the relationship between the leading edge of the roof and the center of the car and the center of the rear hub. In other words, you would take, you can see here what I've done is I've marked off the floor, and while it doesn't look like it's lined up with the hub right now, actually what I did was I jacked, see this, there's no load on the suspension, I got a jack under there, lifted the hub back up until it lifted the car, which is simulates the car on its tires, and that swings the hub back up to the location that's indicated by the string right there. So that would be the center of the rear hub, plumb bob, straight up to this little deal I've got here, which is a beam going across the car to the other side. There's a similar setup. And now this represents the center of the hub line, and I can measure forward straight across. I have this little piece of aluminum bent up so I can go vertical, and this tells me the relationship of the very front of the roof to the center line of the hub, which is pretty much what you want to do. And then I went and measured my Daytona, and while it's not 100%, it's like a half of an inch or so off of what a stock Daytona would be. This is a 116-inch wheelbase car. The Dodge Charger 69 is a 117-inch wheelbase, so it's roughly in the same spot. I still had this profile left over from when I did the hood placement and so forth on the Daytona, which is the roof, mostly the front half of the roof of the 1969 Charger, and then the windshield and down across the profile of the hood. This allowed me to set the hood at the proper height once I had it on the new chassis. And you need to know the relationship of this profile as it relates to the Challenger, the Dodge Challenger roof. So what I have here is a paper pattern that fits across the Challenger roof, and you can see how that compares to the 69 Charger. What I needed to know was this is the leading edge of the 69 Charger, and this is the leading edge of the Challenger roof. So now that gives me a relationship point, so I can move this ahead. What I can add to this pattern now is the remaining profile of the 69 Charger hood. Now, obviously, if he's successful at this, he's going to have to basically, this is represented as the cowl area on the 69 up to about this point, so the hood's going to have to be shortened by about that much and customized in order to work with this windshield bed. As you can see, I've got the center line with taped out right here, and I bent up these pieces of aluminum. I had them taped along here all the way across the top of the roof so that I could tape these pieces of paper and create this pattern, cut it out a little at a time, so that I get the profile of the Challenger and see how it compares. Now, what'll happen with his paper pattern is I'll send him this paper pattern. He could transfer this to some plywood so you can have a rigid template to go up and over the car, and that'll show him what the hood clearance should be and just how much he can cut out of this firewall or wherever he decides to section it. Probably down here below the hinges and then up along here, somewhere across here, and section it and drop it down in order to get the proportions closer to what the 69 Charger is while maintaining all the other LX suspension and so forth. The other limiting factor is going to be the shock towers, the tops of the shock towers. Now you can cut a little bit of this material out here, and of course you can cut this pinch weld out, which I did with my Daytona, and you can re-weld it up here and eliminate some of this height. But this is really kind of the limiting factor. On my car, the real limiting factor was the top of the manifold on the engine, because it has a high-rise manifold. So the edge of the manifold really determined how low I could go with the hood and the overall body as a consequence. But this is probably going to be the limiting factor on the project that he's doing. And so what I'll have to do also is create a cross template that goes across that mimics the hood, and find a spot here where I can key it so he could put the two of them together, two halves, one slid in this way to represent the cross section of the hood as it crosses over these two shock towers, and that'll give him a good idea, you know, what how much exactly he can cut out. Now hopefully he can get most of the material out, but it is 4.5 inches taller, this door, than the 69 Charger door. So believe it or not, the glass is the same height from here to here. So we can drop this down, it might actually work. The roof is a little bit shorter, 2 or 3 inches, but most of that's because the 69 Charger's roof is long in this direction, and it stands up, the windshield stands up. So taking that in mind, if you keep the center skin and then you take the 69 Charger quarter panels and splice them in, once this entire, what I call the greenhouse is the glass area around the car. You take the whole greenhouse and drop it down, carrying the doors down with it. It'll be a job, but it can be done, I bet. He might be able to splice this in and use this greenhouse with all of the windows and glass and so forth to create a 69 Charger on this platform. The only other problem is going to be coming up with glass. Of course, the 69 Charger has back-leaning glass, and the chances of finding a piece of glass that's both curved and the shape that needs to be put in behind this piece of glass, pretty much nil. But this glass is solid, it's in there, so you could, there's curved Lexan that they sell for drag cars and so forth, so you could actually cut a custom pattern to fit into that. You just have to make a bed like this is set in. This is just set against, a bed is glued in just like you would glue in a windshield or the back glass. And that'd be the only other cosmetic thing you could do, but then you'd have the power windows and everything. The other thing is that I use Challenger window regulators in my 69 Charger, and they're very long in this direction. I actually had to create a pocket at the bottom of the Charger door in order to accommodate the length. So he might end up running into an issue where he's limited as to how much he can chop off of this door. And there'll be some challenges also with making this door jamb. This will be a little customization, but this situation, doing it this way, basically starts you out with the quarter panel over the wheel in the right location, and then moving forward, the rest of the car follows forward. So this doesn't have anything to do with my project, but it was an interesting thing. I thought I'd get involved and help them cipher out some of these things, and hopefully it goes well. It's going to be a little bit of a nightmare inside, as we all know, with the air conditioning and all that. You're going to have to drop the dashboard. I don't know how that's going to work out with the steering column and all that stuff, but, you know, that's what makes this stuff fun. That's it for now.